This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Panel, today we look at the global challenge that is finding a balance that preserves ecosystems while ensuring food security. Now, panel, my first speaker came and characterized to you what a low developed country is, and of which they come and tell us that they agree with what we defined as a low development country. These low developed countries are suffering vulnerable to economic and environmental shocks. Now, panel, these countries are countries that actually need sustainability, and we are looking at the fact that this food security is going to be there for a longer period of time. We give you an example of, imagine you attaining something that is going to be short term, you having increased productivity that is going to only last 2 years, and having productivity that is going to last more years. Now, panel of judges, let me take them through because they clearly do not understand today's case. Now, panel, look at, they come and say that we actually don't give them examples, but we give them examples. We told them about integrated pest management. This is use of natural methods to prevent pests, versus what they want to use as pesticides or agrochemicals. Now, panel, we're looking at a country that we tell you is a country that is full of people who are smallhold farmers. These are people who actually have small scale, are carrying out small scale farming. There is no way you expect such a farmer to actually bring a tractor or mechanization or whatever they are saying, and this is a person who is learning low income, and you expect them to actually use such intensive farming methods. But rather, if you bring up sustainable methods, which are not complex, which they can easily understand, because most of these farmers that are smallhold farmers are illiterate, that means it cannot bring it up. Now, panel of judges, they forget one thing here. Sustainable agriculture practices are environmental friendly since they are nature-based, unlike intensive farming methods, which they actually give an example of NBK, which actually leads to acidic soils, leads to toxic soils, and this actually leads to water pollution in the end and death of organisms of this soil. Now, panel of judges, what are we looking at? We're looking at promoting economic sustainability. We're looking at promoting we're looking at having a sustained environment. Now, panel, when we are looking at promotion of economic sustainability, what are we looking at? This promotes local food production. That means each small-scale farmer, is going to carry out these sustainable measures because they are capable of, because this is what is to their pocket and they can manage this. But panel of judges, we're looking at intensive methods which are cost intensive and are less accessible by small-scale farmers. Now, panel, we also look at sustainable agriculture, which promotes long-term sustainability since it does not take place at the risk of the environment, but rather when considering intensive farming, it leads to short-term gains, but economically cannot be sustained by a country by low developed countries, which are low income earners, and on top of that are in debt burdens and cannot carry out such an initiative. Now, panel, we are telling you that most of this land is actually fragmented because of the rising population. This land you cannot imagine, panel, they actually talked about us having few hectares. Imagine you carrying out such intensive farming methods on such a low scale farm. Panel of judges, these scale farms are going to be exhausted. They're going to be toxic. At the end of the day, these people will not even have a source of food, and at the end of the day, this food security is not going to be there because it will be there for a short period of time and not a long period of time. We're looking at promoting social inclusion of the small-scale farmers and building resilient societies, and that is what we look forward to. Thank you so much.
This house believes that LDCs should prioritize sustainable agricultural practices over intensive farming methods. So, from the very onset, the affirmatives bring in the issue that they believe that they are curbing food insecurity, right? But which food insecurity are they curbing? When the hunger index for Uganda currently, which is an LDC by the way, is 25.2, right? So that's a very alarming rate. They are talking about food security being curbed. Yet we see that the status quo currently in Uganda as an LDC has a high hunger index of 25.2, even with the things that they're trying to sustain as sustainable agricultural practices, which is currently being practiced in Uganda. We see that the status quo is failing us because we still have such a high hunger index. as high as 25.2. So then they again call the sustainable agricultural practices cheap. But have they forgotten that once you don't invest, then you're definitely going to get low output? Which, by the way, as LDCs, we are trying to develop as much as possible, because the issue with LDCs is that we are trying to get as high as possible in terms of economic development. So if they're trying to front it as calling it cheap, they're actually staying in their mediocrity, right? They're staying mediocre instead of focusing on the bigger picture, which is development. At which point we believe that as we achieve development, then all these other things should come later. So we believe that as we prioritize intensive farming methods, we believe that development is improved, and with more development, then definitely comes the other things that we want to that we would like to achieve as a developing country. Then they talk about the environment. They talk about our intensive farming methods being harmful to the environment. But surely, let's account for this situation. In what way can intensive farming methods possibly contribute to environmental degradation? There are other factors outside of this scope that they have failed to look at. Things like pollution by polythene bags, things like oil spills, things that are not even related to intensive farming methods. Things that even if currently we can see again in countries that have taken up intensive farming methods, can they account for the fact that even still with the intensive farming methods being taken up, the rate of environmental degradation is actually low? Because the real fact is that there are way bigger causing agents of environmental degradation that they have forgotten to see in this debate. So we believe that, again, they talk about us as a developing country not having the money. But mind you, we are the very same people that take loans for nothing. We take loans of I don't know how many billions to develop. I don't know what we're even developing at that point. But it's all an issue of what? Of values. So if we believe that we value intensive farming over these other agricultural practices, we believe that if we value intensive farming methods, we'll actually we'll find that, because already the money we have in circulation is enough. All that is missing is the allocation. So if we can account for the allocation properly, which is definitely what we are going to do, because it is within our mandate to apply for to apply the intensive farming methods whichever way we can, because the money is here. The money we have it, and even if that's not enough, because we are taking these huge loans that we can still use to develop our intensive farming methods. So the issue of us being economically weak stands null and void. Then they call intensive farming short term. The issue here is very strange, because now if they're again staying in their mediocrity, right? Because if you can produce 60 tons in 1 year, and then we have definitely produced 60 tons. But by the time that 60 tons turns into a 50, we have definitely spent a very long time, like close to 20 years. Instead of staying there 10 tons per year, they are staying mediocre instead of actually developing what needs to be developed. And then we will talk about sustainability. They say that theirs is long term, but the fact is, even if it's long term and you're being ineffective, because the fact is their production is so low, it's extremely low, that by the time they actually get out of this ditch that we are talking about, it will no longer be sustainable, because a farmer will input this much and not get anything at the end of the day, because he's trying to use sustainable agricultural practices that clearly have almost zero yield. So we would rather front our intensive farming methods and prioritize them. Then later maybe we can start to think about whatever they're talking about. Yes. So then again they talk about the destruction of the environment. Thank you.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.